Achieving Great Outcomes Through Integrating Operations into the Daily Work of Development by Andrea Roshira, Tammy Dressen, Aaron Foote, and James Kennedy. One way to speed up the value stream is to create small teams that can quickly and independently deliver value to the customer. However, a barrier to these team success can be a disconnect between development and operations. A centralized ops team may face competing priorities as they try to service multiple teams, creating long lead times and poor deployment outcomes. Integrating operations into the development teams can improve the flow. During a recent internship, I saw firsthand the need for integrating operations and development teams. The company where I interned changed their deployment pipeline tool to save money, and the change was handled by the ops team. My UI development team was told the pipeline was in place for our weekly production deployment. However, it quickly became apparent that it was not configured correctly. An urgent call to the ops department revealed that the entire ops team was out for a team-building exercise during the first deployment using the new pipeline. As we frantically worked to repair the pipeline, our deploy window passed and our deployment failed. The following week, our deploy failed yet again, while the ops engineer was out to lunch until after the window closed. In this case, the disconnect between the dev and ops teams led to frustration and a delay in delivering value to the customer. Today, we're going to share several ways of integrating operations into the daily work of development to avoid similar bottlenecks in the value stream.
Create shared services to increase developer productivity. One of the main focuses in this is that all the platforms and services we provide should ideally be automated and available on demand without requiring a developer to open up a ticket and wait for someone to manually perform the work. This ensures operations doesn't become a bottleneck for the customer. Example like, hey, we received your request, that'll take us about 6 weeks to manually configure the test environment for you. By doing this, we enable the product teams to get what they need when they need it, as well as reduce the need for communication and coordination. As Damon Edwards observed, without the self-service operation platforms, the cloud is just an expensive hosting 2.0. Creating and maintaining these platforms and tools is real product development. The customers of our platforms aren't our external customers, but our internal dev teams. Diane Marsh, Director of Engineering Tools at Netflix, states that her team's charter is to support our engineering teams, innovation, and velocity. We don't build, bake, or deploy anything for these teams, nor do we manage their configuration. Instead, we build tools to enable self-service. It's okay for people to be dependent on our tools, but it's important that they don't become dependent upon us. Internal shared services teams should continually look for internal tool chains that are widely being adopted in the organization, deciding which ones make sense to be supported centrally and made available to everyone. In general, taking something that's already working somewhere and expanding its usage is far more likely to succeed than build these capabilities from scratch. And as we can see, these platforms and services become automated on a continual basis. They support the teams, they help reduce communication and coordination, ultimately building these platforms so everyone can use them, everyone can succeed, which is our ultimate goal of the flow, so that the DevOps can support their internal customers and those teams can support our external customers.
One great way to integrate dev and ops is to actually integrate dev and ops, and by this I mean to embed an operations engineer into each service team. So in this way, each dev team will have a dedicated ops engineer to whom they can turn to help make their lives easier, therefore speeding up development, and will actually increase cross-training and lead to more efficient development. And in this way, ops engineers are able to help create external technologies and capabilities for their platform, and because they take part in all of the dev rituals, then they're kept more in the loop and able to assist the development team even more. So it's kind of a feedback loop of positive integration. A way to build on the idea of embedding an operations engineer into service teams is to have an operations liaison for a litany of service teams. It's important to make sure that they're not spread too thin, but if you are able to comfortably assign an operations liaison to a couple of service teams, then they're able to help even more teams than a one-on-one basis, and that way it saves on cost, but also it's more scalable than a one-to-one ratio.
The goal and the benefit of involving ops engineers and other non-developers in dev rituals is that they can understand better the DevOps culture and, as a consequence, be integrated in every part of the daily planning and work. One very popular dev ritual is the daily stand-up, a brief meeting that helps the team members to review the work done, to plan the work to do for the current day, and to detect what is hindering the completion of the work. One limit of the daily stand-up is that the information brought up during the meeting is bounded to the developer team. Instead, when the ops engineers are involved in the stand-ups, even operations can gain the same information and be better prepared to support the developer team. When both the teams have a grasp of what is slowing down the workflow, they can find ways to help each other to push the work forward. And if managers join the stand-up, prioritization and resource conflicts can be solved even more quickly. Another popular ritual is the dev retrospective. Basically, at the end of each development interval, the team gathers to discuss what worked fine and what could perform better. If also operations is involved, the feedback collected from operations can help the developer teams to understand what to optimize. Finally, another way to make the work visible is by using a Kanban board. If the board is shared between the developer and operations teams, it's easier to see the work required from the starting idea to the production environment and what are the roadblocks to remove from the stream.
Integrating development and operations will improve the efficiency and productivity for both. This integration can be accomplished in several ways. These include creating shared services such as production-like environments, deployment pipelines, and automated testing tools, embedding operations engineers into service teams or assigning them to multiple teams as operations liaisons, and including operations in development planning and feedback rituals such as stand-ups, retrospectives, and Kanban boards. Doing these things will allow service teams to speed the flow of value to the customer and will prevent operations from becoming a bottleneck in the value stream.